This week, we made a pedestal for a laptop.
So put down your tools, guys. It's time for Make or Break.
Hey guys, welcome back to Make or Break. I'm Rob.
And I'm Sarah. And this week, we made a project that was actually a commission piece.
It's this thing. I'm super excited about it. So a friend of ours works in an optometrist office, and they had a couple of different spaces, a couple of different rooms where they needed to be able to set down a laptop without taking up too much space. And they asked if we could make some pedestals. So, and they said we could design them any way we wanted.
Yes.
So we did this weird thing here, and here's how it went.
Could we have simply taken a platform and screwed it onto a 4x4? Maybe, but where's the fun in that? Instead, we wanted to try and make something a little more unique looking and chose to use two 4x4s, each leaning in the opposite direction. But first, we needed our 4x4s milled down to 3x3s, which I did off camera with a planer. If you don't have a planer, you can always buy pre-milled lumber. Even with our lumber planed down, I still had to sand. No, I decided to design the pedestal in SketchUp, which helped me with the math. I knew that if I wanted these 30 inches tall, I'd need to cut the legs at precisely 20 degrees. Fortunately, our Hart miter saw can easily handle the 3x3 lumber, and it cut right through it. Now, each leg had to be 31 3/8 inches long. Now, we recently added this new M1 caliber measuring tool to our Hart miter saw, and this thing is super useful. Instead of measuring and setting up a stop block, I was able to simply slide my lumber under the M1 until it told me I was at 31 3/8 inch, and then make the cut. And after a few cuts, I had 6 identical legs. Now we're making 3 pedestals eventually, so I went ahead and cut those extra legs. But I only needed 2. Next, I needed to make the top and bottom platform for each pedestal. These would be 14 by 11 inches and cut from 1/2 inch thick pine. I first rough cut them with my circular saw and then used my sled on my table saw, so that way I could use a stop block and make sure that each one was the exact same size. Then it was time to attach the legs. I wasn't sure how I was going to do this, and I learned a few hard lessons along the way. At first, I simply glued them up, held them together, and fired in a few brad nails. But the nails simply weren't strong enough. One of the legs had slightly warped, so that tension caused many of the nails to pull out. Super frustrating. That's when I realized that because my design had both legs leaning to the side, that a lot of stress was going to be put on the platform to hold them together. I tried screwing them together from the side, which just didn't give me the holding power I needed, and eventually screwed them together through the top, which did the trick, but it left us with some ugly screws. I figured this time around I'd simply cover them with wood filler and plan for a more elegant solution on the next 2. Sarah decided to round over the edges of the top with a trim router, and then we sanded all the hideous wood filler I put over all of my mistakes. Next, we were careful to get all the dust off with a brush attachment on our vac, and then got to staining. We chose a light brown dye stain from General Finishes. We first stirred it up and then used rags to lay it on thick against the grain and then wiped off the excess with the grain, and the results were great. The next day I applied a coat of lacquer and it was done. Then Sarah was able to drop off the finished pedestal while picking up some new shop glasses. And what do you know? It worked.
So did Ryan like it?
I didn't drop it off. It is right here. That is literally happening next.
But we just saw in the footage, you gave it to him and it looked like he liked it.
Do you not know how video editing works?
I do not.
Okay, I want to thank Hart for sponsoring this episode and reminding us that we can build anything we can imagine if we do it with Hart.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys, so you don't miss a thing. All right, break's over.
Let's make something.